Like, I don't even really think I subscribe to the whole rigs must reset theory anymore.
That's a big statement.
I've never ever believed for a second that Carp see our rigs and are scared of our rigs. The goo I use is the very original Squid Supreme goo, which I have got lots of in my garage. It's worth a fortune, that stuff now. I've seen it sell for 100 quid a bottle.
How many mixes did you get through?
We probably used, 30 or 40 kilos, something like that.
It's quite a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Yeah,
And that's
uncoated braid.
Every carp, yeah, just braid.
We were chatting, I think it was one of the things we ended on, was survival.
What actually happened was we didn't eat for a very long time. Normally you'd have 2 bivvies, we had no bivvies. Normally you'd have 2 bed chairs, we had no bed chairs. If a rig ends up in a position where it isn't fishing, what rig really would do that?
And you had some big fish, didn't you?
Yeah, I caught the biggest carp I've ever caught off the top. I thought it was like £28, and mate, it's like, that's a £30, and I was like, it's not. I don't ever have the fear that if that gets spat out, it's not going to be fishing. Sorry to interrupt, but whilst I have your attention, I just want to talk about a couple of things. Firstly, would you please subscribe to our YouTube channel? We would massively appreciate it, and you will stay very much up to date with everything YouTube orientated that we do. Secondly, and as well as asking you for a little favour, we have a little something that might be of interest to you. If you click the link in description or scan the QR code on screen, you will be entitled to 50% off your first 3 months as a Cypography member. And as a Cypography member, you will get access to over 1,000 videos and several other member perks.
Elliott, you've just got back from a weekend at Linear, potentially a boozy weekend at Linear, in memory of Paul Ford. I think that this is the 2nd or 3rd year this has run.
3rd.
Yeah.
3rd.
And tell us about it. What was it like?
Okay, so it was really nice. It was, as you can imagine, you've got lots of people there who had a lot of love for a guy that deserved it, I suppose. Big character, very influential, and the sort of person that leaves an impression on you. Like, I don't know Paul half as well as the people there, but you meet a lot of people, and certain people leave more of an impression on you than others. Paul was definitely one of them. I think anyone that knew Paul properly, as I didn't, you know, they will have lots to say about him. He's not the sort of guy that you don't have a lot to say about just because of the way he carried himself. You know, everything I've heard about him. You know, he was a big, bold character, great carp angler, great person to be around, and you know those events are there in memory of them. So,
do they reflect him? Was it a big, bold weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like Laney run this one. I think over the years it's been run. I think Oz has done it a couple of times, but this one that I attended, I hadn't been to the previous 2. I don't think I was asked, but anyway, hadn't been to the previous 2, and this one definitely Laney organised it, and his message was, "We're just here to," and a lot of people said that at the start because you don't know, do you? You don't know. The way it works is people from the public will pay to fish with a certain angler. That all the money goes to MNDA charity. So you turn up not knowing whether it's going to be like a militant style thing where you are locked in your swim, giving them a tutorial, whatever, however you want to call it. But it was the total opposite of that. Loads of swim sharing, just fun, really. Everyone was there having fun, sharing swims. You know, sometimes you might have 5 people in a swim at once, all with their rods, trying to catch one off the top. So,
and what lake were you on? What lakes?
Oh, so it was at Linear. We had Brasenose 1 and 2. I was on 2, but it was split across both lakes. I think there was probably 50. I reckon there's 50 people there, 25 pairs sort of thing. And like I say, it was people from all over the place, different ages. Some people very close to Paul. Others, you know, may have never met Paul, but have paid to come on the event and fish. But it was good fun. It was just, it didn't feel like I thought it would be. It didn't feel like the sort of event that I thought it might be. It was so relaxed, it was so chilled, which I think is right. You know, in those situations, I think you go there and you treat it the wrong way, all of a sudden, it's not the celebration of a life, which I suppose it should be. But it was very much a celebration of Paul's life, you know. Loads of carp caught. I don't think B1 fished as well as the year before. I think the year before, like, it was crazy at times. They were getting them off the top. So both years, both this year and last year, it was mostly surface fishing. Most people didn't even fish the nights. sort of turn up there, get everything ready to fish the night, and then before you know it, you just floater fishing for hours on end. And it's such a fun way to fish, floater fishing.
Did you have your surface fishing gear with you? Because you might turn up to these events thinking, and not bring everything. Did you?
Everyone had mentioned about the floaters. So yes, I brought kit with me to do it. But funnily enough, I actually ended up fishing with £5 spod rod, my spod reel, and well, essentially you cut the spom off and fished with that rod. Now, a lot of people think that's, I mean, your eyes sort of moved then. I saw you do that. So, but I haven't done loads and loads of floater fishing over the years. I've done a lot of it, but it's not something I don't particularly like fishing for really big carp off the top. Now, if there's a lake where there's lots of carp in the lake and I know there's big carp amongst them, I don't mind doing it. But when most of the carp are big, and the lakes I've fished in recent years, like when I grew up and even into my late 20s and stuff like that, a lot of the lakes I fished were club waters. They'd be like 1 or 2 fish lakes, I call them. So you've got a big carp or 2 big carp amongst the stock of other fish that aren't as big. And in that case, I'll happily fish on the surface, knowing that the chances of me actually hooking one of the big uns, you want to hook the big one off the top, but in your mind, you kind of know that you're probably not going to.
Yeah.
Whereas you fish a weedy, snaggy lake on the surface where there's lots of big carp, I feel like your chances of losing them are greater. They're much bigger. They're much more powerful. In recent years, just because of the types of lakes I've fished, I tend not to do it as freely as I would on a lake where you catch a lot more smaller fish and the big one might come along. But over the years, I've been through many different situations, and obviously as you fish these lakes with lots of carp in, when you do catch lots of carp off the top, you do realise that quite often you're quite undergunned. I have always found anyway, you're undergunned. I use the typical Daiwa 2.6 reel. I might use one of my old school rods from when I was a kid, 2 3/4 pound that's been battered for 15 years. It's like a flop stick. There's no the fish take the piss a lot of the time. You don't have that control you do with a typical carp rod. Whereas when you go zig fishing, it's not really any different. And I'll happily fish way more stepped up and overgunned big pit reels, heavy rods when I'm zig fishing. I would never consider using a 2 1/4 pound Tesco rod to go zig fishing. It's not really much different. The only difference I find is when you're using a small float that you need to cast, that you need to whip 30 yards, it's not that easy with a stepped up rod. But on Brasenose and on other lakes I've fished in the past where I sort of break floater fishing down into 2 styles. You've got the catapult, the little float sneaking around, and then you've got the more industrial way of doing it, which is spom rod, 80 yards out in the pond, fishing that way. That lends itself to a much more stepped up version of. So that's what I ended up doing. And yeah, we were fishing anything from, I don't know, probably 60 to maybe 100 yards, getting towards 100 yards, that sort of thing.
I would say not every carp angler has done that.
No.
Most of their carp, their surface fishing sort of history would be close in, like you say.
Yeah.
What are the challenges then at fishing on the surface at, say, 80 yards?
I think I find it makes it much easier. So typically over the years for me, it obviously always depends on the situation you have. If you find a group of 5 or 10 fish in a little bay somewhere, you don't want to be spomming on them. You don't need the spod rod, and that more traditional way of maybe surface fishing lends itself to that situation. But over the years, I've always found that those situations are quite hard to come by. And nowadays, if you find five carp milling around in the weed, put some floaters out, if you don't catch one within 15 minutes, the birds will ruin it most of the time. And then all of a sudden, they are more out in the lake. Whereas when you just go straight in with that big bait in, loads of mixers, yes, the birds come. But when you end up with an area, sometimes you might have an acre of water that's got floaters in it. You might have birds here, there. I find it's easier to feed the birds off. The chances aren't ruined as easily because it's on a bigger, wider scale. Well, you've got a lot more water to play with, and I find if I had the choice, that would be the style of floater fishing that I do these days. And
but are you seeing your bait? Are you seeing the bites?
No.
What are the challenges?
I've been there. I've been there and tried all that. I've always been terrible. If you want to keep feeding mixers, it's quite hard to keep an eye on your control. You can see the float, so I use a big float. So take the weekend for example. I've got 5 pound spod rod, spod reel. I've got spod braid. It's probably, I don't know what the breakage strain of it, but it's thin, strong enough. But it's nice and thin so you can cast far. Big controller floats, but they're the bulk machine style ones where they will hook carp for you. Some people still strike with those. So I didn't at this, and I don't anymore because I can't see my hook bait. It's that far out. What can you do other than rely on the float? So typically I just put the bait out, wait for the fish, and what will happen is a lot of the time on a lake with more carp in it, of course, it's only 10 carp in the lake, it won't be the same, but on a typical lake where I say you've got 100 carp, most lakes nowadays probably have Brasenose, you've got, I think there's like potentially 2,000 carp in that lake. So we had lots of fish in front of us. It wasn't silly, like one end of the lake where we thought we had a good number of fish and we did, but when we went down the other end of the lake, I couldn't believe what I saw. There were carp backs everywhere. There were hundreds and hundreds of carp in a shoal taking floaters because the other guys are obviously doing the same thing. But what ends up happening typically is you end up with mixers all the way across your swim. Generally there's a wind of some kind, and you'll just, if you watch carefully, you'll see windows of opportunity amongst that big spread of floaters. So I just cast beyond them, reel back into them, and then just put the float on the floor. And we'll just watch what they're doing, and if they continue to feed in that same area and the float drifts out, I reel it in, cast back out, and just let it drift through, and eventually you just hook them. You know,
see a bow wave.
The float does. No, the rod just goes. You see the line whip up on the surface. Sometimes you see the float go. Depends if you're spomming still, because you've got to keep it. You kind of have to keep that flow of mixers going in. But it's a really nice, relaxed way of. It's not as relaxed as just the little catapult, but the staring at a float all day. I used to find I strike all the time. I miss so many at that range, and every time you strike, you know, the float, big eruption, you spook them. I think when you just leave it out there, and I hooked 10, I landed 10, so I didn't lose any. All of the fish that I hooked were really good hook holds as well. Whether that's because, and I know I got done. Don't get me wrong. I know there are times when I see the float bob, or I see what I'm sure is my hook bait go and one would erupt. So you do get done, but that happens whether you're striking or not. And personally for me, now, I would much rather have 3 rods in the mix. I only used 1, but if I went back, I would use 3. I'd have 3 of the same out there, and I would just let them do their thing. You know, and those 3 rods, you know, it's like anyone who's floater fished will know that you're always chasing them because they go from here. But when you've got 3 in the mix, and as soon as you cast left, they feed right. You know, putting more floats out there, lots of bait. I found on there, it would go quiet if they ate the bait, and you can put 3 or 4 spoms out. But it's easy for what I think you need with, especially on a lake or in a situation where there are several carp. You need a stream of mixers at varying ranges because the carp don't just sit there. And you can put 2 spoms of mixers out and they can drift through. But if the carp have dropped 30 yards short, they don't even see them. So we were baiting at various ranges, keeping the bait going in, particularly while the wind was up, and then just casting sort of to where the obvious, because you always end up with you might have 1 fish taking there, but there'll always be a little pod somewhere where you might have 4 or 5 going, cast to them, and that's generally the more carp, the more condensed they are to one area, the easier they are to catch. And yeah, we did that. We did that for a couple of days. It was so much fun.
Are you flattening off with oils and things like that?
Trying to as best as possible. Yeah, like when the wind always sort of it drops and then it picks back up, and I found the best was when there was a ripple. It was flattened off kind of by the oil, but there was still a bit of a ripple. When it was flat calm, the mixers don't move. I think when the mixers don't move quickly, the carp take them more carefully. Whereas when they're moving, they almost have to commit to having them,
or they'll miss out,
or they could miss one.
Yeah,
it certainly felt like that anyway. You know, sometimes the wind is an absolute nightmare. It's like you don't want a wind, but I've always found with with that style of fishing. The idea being you just got a constant stream of mixers, not too much that they follow them all the way down the lake, because you don't want that. So you've got to gauge it right, just enough for them to sort of finish the mixers off by the time they reach one side of your swim. So you still have to read it, it's very, but you'll, rather than just staring at a float all day, you're actually reading the swim. That's the difference I find in the whole little rod, little float, casting individually, watching a hook bait. When you're doing that, a lot can be happening around you and you're fixated on one thing. And I think with those bolt machine style floats, you're able to potentially concentrate on the bigger picture, which is the swim and everything that's going on in front of you. And ultimately, the float's doing its job.
Yeah. And how many mixers did you get through?
We probably used, I would say we used 30 or 40 kilos, something like that.
It's quite a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah. So
you went prepared?
Yeah, you have to, you go in go into the supermarket or wherever, but buy the biggest bag of mixers you can find.
So you're using actual dog mixers?
Yeah, I went to Sainsbury's.
You're not using a bait company's floating baits?
No, have done. I've used all sorts in the past. I don't, some people might say it does matter. I don't believe it really matters. I think any decent floating is key, because I've bought mixers out of the supermarket lots of times that sink. And that was a fear I had. So I went to Sainsbury's before I went down there. I got some mixers out of the garage. Now I think they were from Blake's or something like that. But I didn't have many of them. I had about 4 key. And if the goals were a problem, which I expected them to be, and they weren't really at Linear. Okay. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I was like, of all the lakes, of all the places where I thought don't get me wrong, they appeared at times, but hardly at all. But the amount of people floater fishing on the complex at the time, they were probably quite full. The important thing I think with mixers is just that they float and they stay floating, because a lot of them sink out of a supermarket, and you don't want that. No. They sink after a couple of minutes, which is not good. The other one, and it's something I saw people doing it on whilst I was there at the weekend, was the small pellets. Now, you know what I mean, the little ones, the 6 millers.
That was a big edge a few years ago.
It was. I think Penning was the first person I saw.
And I think at Linear, floating trout pellets, things like that. Yeah.
Now, I've used them a lot over the years, and nowadays I do not use them. Simply because the fish love them, but they become very, very, very hard to catch, from my experience. And we fed the swim, I don't know how much mix, so we got through 15 kilo floaters, something like that, run out. We never had them all, because what happened was, we started in our swims that we were drawn. So we were drawn 2 swims, there were fish in front of us, we put mixers out. When we first got there, I was setting my kit up, and I thought, I'm just going to put a couple of spoms out, just to see if I could get some taking. Classic cardinal sin of floater fishing as well. Never put bait out until you have a rod ready. I've done it almost every time I've floater fished over the years, and although you know that that's the rule, I always break that rule, and it always costs you. So I put mixers out, fish started taking them, and then I'm like, shit, now I need to get kit together. But what I wanted to do is, because I had this guy next to me, my plan was to fish, I wanted to try first fishing zigs underneath the floaters, because it just meant I could feed them and I could stand in his swim. I might get the odd bite on a static zig, and I could stand with him while he's floater fishing however he wanted to do it. But basically, I got these fish feeding. By the time I'd fannied around and got everything done, I was still putting the odd one there it sort of faded out. And I was looking down the lake, and I knew that they were taking them on the drift. But I got everything set up. I got all my zig depths right. Everything was done and ready. And then I was like, right, I'm set for 3 days of this now. But they stopped. They weren't there anymore. So I walked down the bank. I looked sort of 3 or 4 swims up from where we were, and on the wind, there was the mixer had travelled on the wind, and they'd kind of, where the wind, it wasn't right at the bottom end of the lake, but it was like kind of a bay, and it had caused the water. It was blowing into there, but it seemed like it had slowed down, and there was almost like a lee in it. So I went back to him. I was like, "We've got to move," and we just got everything ready in the swims. But when you see an opportunity like that, you can't ignore them, and it was one of them. So we ended up walking down there with the rods, and I think within 10 seconds I hooked the first one, because they'd been there touched the fish, just eating and eating and eating and eating probably for an hour and a half while we did our other bits. And then, from then it just became repeat the process. We stayed in that area, we slept in our swims, and then in the mornings we'd go down there and do a bit. Other people joined in, and it was...
Sounds good fun.
It was good fun. But it's, we put a lot of mixers out, and then the guy that I was fishing with had those small mixers mixed in with his. And when these other mixers ran out, he was like, I'll go get some more mixers. And when he brought them back into the swim, I said to one of the other guys, I was like, oh no, he's got them small ones. I was like, they are a pain in the arse, they are. Anyway, once the original batch of mixers had run out, he started bombing those, and sure enough, they just became an absolute pain in the arse to hook. They're feeding like crazy, and this is my most vivid memories of those micro pellets are loads of carp feeding. Like it's always intensifies whatever situation you've managed to build with a traditional size floater. Put them in the mix, it seems to step up a level, but they just get harder to hook. Why that is? They cluster up and stuff. Have you ever seen them?
I've used them,
and some days, don't get me wrong, if you can hook them in those situations, but I've struggled lots of times. We struggled then. I remember years ago in Oxford having to go down to 6mm cork, like cubes, like tiny little slivers of 6mm cork to hook them. And every time I see them used, I have the same opinion. One, they love them, but two, if you don't have to use them, don't use them. That's my opinion on them now.
So what was your? I don't want to go too technical on this podcast, but this is let's do so. How long's your hook length?
Wingspan.
Yeah, and what's your hook bait?
So.
And when you say wingspan, for those listening, you mean your sort of wing 6 foot?
I'm 6 foot. Yeah. So a wingspan is. So someone said that to me, and I was like, "How long's your hook length?" I was like, "Wingspan," and they looked at me like, "What do you mean a wingspan?" So a wingspan is. I tie my hook bait on to the end of my line. I hold my hook bait in one hand, spread my arm as wide as I can, cut it off. 6 foot, which I think is a nice. It's not too short, it's not too long, and like I say, I'm using that with a bolt machine, and it's just there. And another thing with the wind, when you're fishing with a 6 foot hook link and that kind of float, when you have that breeze, it tends to keep your float and hook link extended.
Yes.
When it's flat calm, you start to get that snaking, and then
pain.
They don't hit the float.
Yes.
You need them to hit the floats. So really a wind is good. 6 foot. And the hook bait, so before I went, I sort of cobbled my floater kit together before I left. As I said earlier, I don't really tend to do a great deal of floater fishing these days.
Yeah.
But I've always got, it's always there ready in the garage or sometimes ready in the van. But hook baits wise, I've always tampered and played with different things. Most of the time over the years, I've wanted to use what I feed. But that is a pain. That becomes a pain because they always, they break off. And so, if I can, I use an artificial first. So just either a fake dog biscuit. Nash do some really nice fake dog biscuits. The Enterprise ones were always good. You could always see them.
Are those the ones with the split shot in?
That's it. The typical one.
Hook?
Yeah. I've caught on them over the years, but like I say, the most recent Nash ones are really nice. But what I actually end up using there. The plastic hook baits I have for Burfield come in coloured sets. So I get a load of excess that I don't want to use. So I've got loads of these, I don't know, what do you call it, like a nutty colour. What's a typical nut bait colour? Beige.
Yeah. Perfect
kind of floater colour. Had a load of them, and I thought, I'll take some of them. So I only got 3 or 4 of those Nash ones, and you never know how many might get through. So I trimmed down a pop-up. I literally just grabbed it out of my bag, out of the pot, trimmed it down, put it on, cast it out, and like I say, I caught one within about 10 seconds. Over the next few hours, and hook baits are critical, and I've learnt that over the years, but I've never known what it is about them that makes them critical. So it's not like, I understand that it's really important what a hook bait needs to be, because I've watched many times fish smashing mixers and ignoring hook baits.
Yeah.
They stop feeding and you think, how have I still got a hook bait out there? Is it my line? I think it's the hook bait. So it wasn't like I had the recipe to success, but on this occasion, by randomly grabbing a pop-up, trimming it down randomly, whopping it on the end of the hook link, flopping it out into the lake, had a bite within 10 minutes. All very...
And fake pop-up, or is this a real actual
floating
bait?
circle boilie,
Plastic.
pop-up plastic boilie, trimmed down a little bit, just so it wasn't completely round.
Yeah.
You know, but it wasn't square. I just nicked away at the edges, just so it was more for probably my own. Anyway, so I've caught on this, and what ended up happening over the next 5 or 6 hours is there were three other guys fishing in the same swim as me, fishing for the same carp as me, and they all had different hook baits on. And I would put my rod out whilst I'll end up hooking one whilst their floats are out there. I'd play the fishing while their floats and have my photographs, everything, then cast my rod back out, and then I would hook the next one. But all the while, these fish are just walloping the mixers. The only thing it could have been, really, is just that by complete chance, there was something about my hook bait. And obviously once this started to happen, because I knew it wasn't because I was doing anything particularly special. They were just refusing their hook baits and they weren't refusing mine.
Had they gone to the bright hook baits?
I think to begin with, they had, they were using, they actually, from memory, they used multiple different things. Guy had a pink pop-up at one point, I think, an orange pop-up, which on the year before, he absolutely smacked him on. That was it. He turned up with an orange pop-up on the end, because the year before he caned him on it. They were not having it this time around. In the end, one of them caught one. So I think I had 6, they had 1, that first period. The next day, I gave the guy that I was fishing with all the time, he ended up using the little Nash ones. He caught on those. But though there was something during that, and I'd say the first day I caught quicker and more easily than I did the second day. The conditions were different. Whether that played its part, I don't know. Every day is different in fishing. But there was something about that hook bait I had that consistently throughout the whole time I floated fish, I would catch at a rate that was quicker than other hook baits that were out there. And I could so easily not have picked that hook bait and ended up in a position where we're all sat there going, how are these fish just getting away with it like this? Because they were. At times there were numbers of carp. You'd have 2 controller floats out there, 2 guys holding the rod, and they're almost just going, what is going on? And then the fish would fade away. You'd put more mix out and it'd happen again.
Did you step up your hook size? Are you side hooking, tiny hairs?
I used a size 8, which, to be honest, I don't really ever use. I did in a way, I did. I used a size 8 wide gape X. Now, that's the only hook they make that's the smallest hook they make in a Kamakura. They do a normal size 8. But, I don't know, when I tied up the rig, I thought, right, I'm going to use those. When I looked at them, they didn't look big compared to a 10. I don't know what a 10 would look like in comparison to them. But they almost felt like a 10 when I was looking at them.
Yeah, so it's the Kamakura version.
Yeah, because it's a wide gape X Kamakura on a hair, so it's basically whipped as a hair, but with a very tight hair. Yeah. Not almost like I would tie a zig.
Yeah.
So the bait is it's much shorter than you would have it with a normal bottom bait, for example. I think one other thing that may have helped me with the consistency side of it was that I always put silicone over the eye of the hook. And I noticed the other guys weren't doing that. So what you get with mono coming out of an eye is it very much closes the gape. And I think that doesn't quite help. I think when you have the silicone completely open up the gape, the line lays flat across the surface, the hook can lay as you would want it to, bait above it, and it's sort of all set and ready to go. But yeah, there's such fine lines in. I think there's fine lines in all of fishing, but I think with floater fishing, you see it more.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there in front of you.
Yeah. Because you're watching. It's not like sitting behind rods.
Yeah.
Not knowing what's happening.
It's a bit like underwater.
It is, and I said this to someone. I was like, this is what underwater's like. Is you always seeing what's happening, and that's why it's fun to observe. Whereas you sit behind your rods, you don't know when it's going right or wrong. You only know when you hook one, and on the surface, you can see when something's right or wrong.
And you had some big fish, didn't you?
Yeah, I caught the biggest carp I'd ever caught off the top. I thought it was like 28 pound, and mate, he's like, that's a 30 pounder. And I was like, it's not, and I was adamant it wasn't. But it was, yeah, £34. I mean, nice carp as well. What we caught, they were like there was a lot of nice scaly carp, mostly mid-20s and stuff like that. But yeah, he had a 31. But last year they had loads of big ones. Several 40-pounders come off the top, stacks of upper 30s. Wasn't as prolific this year. On Brasenose 1. But yeah, it was, like I say, it was funny. Just people all around the lake, floater rods in hand, of all different, because there's so many people floater fishing.
Yeah.
Went into one guy's swim, and I was like, is that a perch rod, mate? He had apparently it was 8 foot, but he had the Daiwa SS, are they the 1/300? So the half size, the 2.6, the little gold one. It's the half size of that, silver spool. Mate, it's like that big. It's tiny. And I was watching this guy playing this fish through the weed, and as he's pumping this back, I was watching his reel turns, and I was thinking, you're probably gaining like 10 inches every 3 winds. But yeah, it was great. It was just a very relaxed, very enjoyable weekends fishing, and I'll definitely do the next one.
The opposite of relaxed fishing. Last time we were on this podcast, we were chatting, I think it was one of the things we ended on, was survival. Was you going out into France and sort of fishing for your supper, almost not literally eating the carp, of course, but every fish you caught would feed you. Mm-hmm. You've been and done that.
Yeah.
What happened?
It was amazing. It was.
Who were you with? Where did you go?
So I did it with my mate Finn, who's anyone that watches Cypography would know him as Wild Man. He is the epitome of he's an outdoors person, in every sense of his life. So he's the perfect person to do it with. And it didn't go as we expected it. I honestly thought, well, bearing in mind what we were suggesting, the food side of it is one thing. So we took, how we did it in the end, I ordered an army rucksack online, quite a big one, but not massive, and I couldn't even fill it. This is what made you laugh. So as it got closer to time, I was thinking, right, I knew what we wanted to do in terms of what style of film we were going to do. I thought, right, we'll take the fishing stuff will be one part of it. So we're going to lakes that are 300 acres, 400 acres. We need a boat. We need 4 rods. So we didn't even have rods each. We just had one set of rods between us. So we need one boat. We need 4 rods. We need bait. We need an unhooking mat. We need a tackle box. That's what we need to catch fish. Aside from that is where we strip everything back. So normally you'd have 2 bivvies. We had no bivvies. Normally you'd have 2 bed chairs. We had no bed chairs. We had, I bought 2 hammocks online, which come in a little pouch about this big. So we had 2 hammocks. I bought 2 cheap sleeping bags online, which again come in things about this big. I bought a flint starter kit, so the spark. Yeah. That you get like a piece of flint with a metal thing on it, and you scratch them together, and it creates a spark. So I bought one of them. I bought 2 knives, a tarpaulin sheet, and a length of rope. And all that went into the rucksack. And I think that was it from memory. That was it in terms of
pots and pans.
2 mess tins.
Yeah.
2 mess tins. That was it. I'm sure that's it. Axe. 2, yeah. So and an axe, but it all went into this rucksack.
Yeah.
And that was it in terms of anything you would ever take fishing with you to keep you comfortable, fed, sheltered, watered, anything like that. That was it. We had nothing.
Did you take a 5-litre water bottle? Did you take
So we took. I think we had water on the way there. We drank lake water out just straight out of the lake with the mess tins.
Purified it?
Yeah.
Or just boiled it? Or?
Boiled it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a cool box full of meat, eggs. I did buy some rice and a bit of pasta as well. So we've gone there, fully equipped in terms of fishing. There was nothing to hold us back in terms of that. We had everything we needed. We had a lighter and a stove, which I would use if I was steaming rigs, but we did not have a lighter or a stove to use if we wanted to warm ourselves or cook. So that was all.
So fishing wasn't hampered.
It was everything else that comes with it. So the first place we went to is a lake that I've been to before. It's a beautiful place. It's a perfect place to do it because it has that. It's a pine forest vibe. Well, it is a pine forest, but it gives you that real wild, adventurous vibe. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. There's lots of carp in there. So I thought we'll go somewhere where we've got a good chance of catching because we get there the first day. We might not catch them the first day, but we should be able to nick one overnight. At least we'll be able to eat by the morning. What actually happened was we didn't eat for a very long time. It was much harder, but we actually ended up leaving that venue and going elsewhere.
Hungry as well.
Yeah, but I don't want to spoil
the videos to come.
What happened. But obviously, one of the biggest fears we had was not eating and what effect it would have on us. And on the way there, we planned to sort of fill ourselves up. We didn't actually do that. I think we had a ham baguette on the way there. And then we didn't eat for a long time, put it that way. And it was hard to begin. I think it was hardest because we had the food there and we really wanted to eat it. Psychologically, we knew it was there in a cool box. Don't forget we've got Rich and Dave who are having their dinner around us, feet away from us. But when something's just out of reach, even if you don't, it's like when stuff's in your fridge. If you don't really need it, but because you have it, it makes you want it. And we had that looming over us. We needed and felt like we wanted to eat more because it's kind of the whole point was we catch something so we can eat, and it just makes you want to eat. But we felt bad. I got sunstroke on the second day. I think it was red hot as well. I got sunstroke I think the second day, but the third day we hadn't eaten them, and we felt so good. We woke up and we both said to each other, we'd kind of come to terms with not eating by this point. But on the third morning of eating nothing, we woke up and I said to Finn, I was like, do you feel good? He was like, mate, he goes, I feel like I could go for a 10k run. He was like, I feel amazing. And obviously all the shit that we consume, that by that stage, it's gone. All of the, and we do eat so much bad stuff. And when we came home at the end, the whole time we'd there, all we'd eaten, and we did eat in the end, we did catch fish and we did eat. We cooked everything on campfires with sticks, and we cut all our meat on the grass and ate it like cavemen. And it was like, but it was on the way home that I realised just how much shit you consume in like nowadays.
Unnecessary stuff as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and just like how hard it is to get something on. Obviously, when it's on the fly, that's what causes it, I suppose. But on the journey home, we had a Burger King, we had this, we had that, we had crisps, and which isn't. It's not like out of the ordinary stuff to eat. It's completely normal for you to eat. But we didn't eat that for all those days. We didn't eat that, and then straight away you go back to reality, and then obviously you then realise because of how good we felt when we weren't expecting to feel good. We were very aware of how good we felt, and we kind of knew why it was. So then, as soon as you start going back down in those, the same old habits of eating shit, I suppose, you then think, fucking hell, and you just become so much more aware of how bad the things we eat probably are for us compared to just not eating. I thought not eating would make me feel a lot worse, but I think in reality, eating the bad stuff is probably worse for you, makes you feel worse than not eating anything at all.
So has it changed you since then?
Yeah, so it hasn't. I've just started doing the keto diet again, which I did this years ago. I like to do things, I'm a bit weird, I like to just have something to do. So loads of times over the years, I'm like, I'm not going to do this. There'll be times where I quit smoking. I'm like, one day I wake up, I'm like, do you know what, I'm going to quit smoking. I'll quit smoking. 2 years down the line, I may start again. And then I'll go, I'm going to quit it. Or I'm going to do this diet. Or I just like to have things, rather than just plod along through life, I like to always have things in my life that are little targets I'm setting, or little goals. So I did the keto diet years ago. I've been drinking a load of beer lately, and I was sitting on my desk and I was like, I've got all this belly fat. I was like, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get rid of that. I'll do the keto diet. Now,
explain to listeners who don't know about it.
So keto is no carbs. Okay, so you're allowed 25 to I think they say about 25 grams a day, but if you just try not to eat any, so basically it's no bread, no pasta. It's nothing with sugar in basically. So no bread, no pasta, no rice, almost no fruit. You can have berries, so certain berries you have, but no fruit. High fat, so lots of cheese. I basically eat meat, eggs, nuts, some nuts, veg, cheese, pork scratchings. You have them. So it's kind of similar to I think what the carnivore diet or whatever people call it, but you're not having sugar. And Dave, who you would all know, for a long time now, he's done, I don't know what diet it is. Basically, he just eats whole foods, but he predominantly eats meat. And he's been banging on to me about how good he feels. And I don't remember the first time I did keto ever feeling that different. To be honest, I think I just felt like I was eating certain foods, didn't feel worse, but didn't necessarily feel better. In recent years, I really struggle to get out of bed in the mornings. Don't know why, but I will generally get out of bed at 8 o'clock, have my shower, get up, come straight into the office. But if I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you won't get me out of bed before 8. Gemma will get up with the kids, and I always feel, it's not because I don't want to get up, because if I had it my way, I'd probably get up at first light every day, whether I was fishing or at home. But I say, however long ago it was, a week or so back, started doing the keto, and every single day since then, I just wake up at between 6:30 and 7, get up and go, and just crack on. Like I used to be able to at 8 o'clock, but so much earlier, as soon as I wake up. And that is because it's 100% because of the diet, because you're just not eating anything bad, you know. So yeah, no, that trip hasn't changed me, but it's made me aware. I think more and more people are aware nowadays of the importance of being healthy. I am way more aware of it. I've always exercised. I've always ate pretty good, but every now and then it's nice to just do something with a bit more regimental, a bit more regimented, and try and stick to it. Prove to yourself. I think it's good to take yourself out your comfort zone. I think a lot of people underestimate how good that is for you as a person, to take yourself to a place where you don't really want to be, and then before long you go, oh, wasn't that bad after all. But once you know you can do it, and I think some people probably never do. I think they never do anything like that. And that's one thing that me and Finn learned. Like, that was one thing that really hit us. It was like, everyone should do this. Whether you try and do it and you fail, everyone who's an angler, who takes for granted how easy we have it, should go grab a mate and go, let's go and do that ridiculous thing what them two did.
Don't have to go to France either to do it, do you? You could do it on your local club.
You could do it on your local. So there was something about the disconnection between, like, if we'd have done it here at our local club lake.
Yeah, you'd have all your delivery apps and things.
It just wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. It felt so much more authentic because we were in a place where there was no light pollution at night. There was no. We were in a foreign country. We were detached from even where we were in France. We're massively detached from the real world. We were out in the middle of nowhere in France. So yeah, it was really good. I'm so glad we've done it.
I'm looking forward to
I've said about doing it for so long, and we caught some nice carp. So it'll be something really different. I say it's not been done before in fishing, which again is sort of things we like to try and do when we can. It's not easy.
How was carp fishing in a hammock? Because Sean Harrison, if you know Sean, he fishes in a hammock. I've seen him do that.
Yeah.
Did it take getting used to? What about getting out for a bite when you're asleep?
So it was fine. It was comfortable, because I thought that, I was like, shit, that might actually be horrible. It's not. It was really comfy. They're not the easiest things to get in and out of. I actually flipped it one morning or one night. So you have like the base of the hammock is obviously, I'll call it a solid material. It's not mesh. I don't know. It's so you've got the membrane at the bottom, and then the top is obviously mozzie mesh. But I don't know how I flipped it. I sort of think I was trying to get out, and then it went round the other way. So I could not right myself. I did in the end. But other than that one time when I flipped it and got in a bit of a pickle, then it was comfortable. It was fine. It was like, and when you compare it being that big.
Yeah, I mean, for those listening, what are we saying? I mean, the size of a...
I'd say it was the size of a...
I don't know, like a grapefruit sort of thing?
Yeah, a grapefruit. That's a great...
Yeah, it's a tiny...
That's a grape size, yeah. So small, weighed nothing, you know. You could carry one with you everywhere you went for the rest of your life, and you would never even know you had it on you. Compare that to a bed chair, the difference, you know, there was no real difference other than you can't get one in a bivvy if it rained. But luckily, it was hot.
Did you have to pick swims, though, based on the fact that there had to be 2 trees?
No, but we did have to consider that. So when we go, right, okay, hang on, where are the hammocks going to go? They go there. It was, of course. You know, we had to get our fires going. And sometimes it was really difficult. One lake we were at, it was a bit easier because it was the pines, which have a natural, because of the sap in them, they're easier to light. And the other lake we went to wasn't like that. Much more shaded swim, damper ground. And I think one night we spent an hour and 20 minutes trying to get a fire going. And then we changed we changed one little thing. I just felt the grass that Finn had. And I was like, that feels just like it's got a tiny bit of moisture in it to me. I went and found some more grass. And we'd been trying to light this bit of grass for the best part of, like I say, an hour. Changed the grass and it lit. You know, they were the tiniest, you know, those tiny little things made all the difference when you were trying to light a fire with a spark. But obviously, we came away, it was red hot the whole time we were there. So it didn't rain, it wasn't cold. And we come away from it and then we were like, oh, we had that easy really. Because we'd done it, we then thought, how can that, so now it's like, we should do another one. We will do another one, it won't be the only one we do. We should do another one.
Winter?
Mate, I think we'll probably go autumn, spring, then winter, I think. Because it would be the fire, it's the fire. If you've got a fire, you're all right. If you haven't got a fire, you're bang in trouble. Like bang in trouble. Because you can't cook without fire.
Or get warm if you're cold, or dry things.
Yeah, so, and again, you would just never go carp fishing. And you would never think a fire defines but for us then, it did. And it would, if we went back in the autumn, the fire would be the single most important thing we had in our swim. Whereas normally when you go carp fishing, a fire, you don't need a fire, do you? You don't need a fire. So yeah, it was an eye opener, and it was really different. It was an experience. That's what it was.
When can we expect to see the film?
So I'm going to start editing it like now, basically. I think I've got Jimmy's underwater to finish, which will be in the next couple of days. By the time this is out, Jimmy's probably will be out as well, I'd imagine. So it's the next thing to edit. What is it now? End of June?
It is, yeah.
Shit, it's end of June, isn't it?
It's
gone
so
fast this year. So probably end of July, I would say. Yeah, end of July that'll be out. That'll be good.
It sounds good. I can't wait to see it.
It will be good.
You mentioned Jimmy's Underwater. That's James Armstrong, who you did something at Stanek with this time last year. And you've got a Scott Lloyd thing coming. Is that also on the go in the edit?
So Jimmy's Underwater we actually filmed last year. It was the first film we'd ever made with 2 cameras, but we didn't release it because the way we film things generally, you just end up with a backlog of stuff. By the time it came around to being able to release it, I think we were just a bit like, should we save it for the more? It's nice. I like to put stuff out relevant times a year, if I can. So if a shoot's something in December, I don't really want to put it out in June.
Yeah.
If a shoot's something in June, ideally I'd put it out in June. You can't always do that, but we were in a position with Jimmy's where we could save it for this year, put it out at the time of year it was shot. I think it's nicer to be able to watch something, even at the lake, you know, be an angler at that lake this time of year, watching it on your phone and going, that might be happening around me now. So we try to do that if we can. But Jimmy's Underwater is really, really interesting. He's got this, and I don't mind saying this, he's really worried that it's shit and no one's going to like it. And he's going to come across really bad. But I've said to him time and time, I was like, mate, that is not the case. The things that happen in that film shocked me, and still to this day do. I can't believe how difficult those fish were to catch at times.
You were fishing close in, weren't you?
Yep. Yeah, we had. Did you come there?
I did. I met you. I was down on another project, and I popped in to see. Yeah, you had the generator going. You had 2 screens going.
Yeah, there we did 2 screens.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I remember. Yeah, the drone was up when I popped in there, and you were fishing bait boats. Am I allowed to say that? In the court, you know, it was real close in stuff.
Yes, it was.
Feeding line under trees.
We had one down to the left, one across to the far side, and we ended up moving a camera sort of halfway between the 2 areas. But yeah, fishing underneath trees, that kind of thing. Not so much snag fishing, more canopy fishing, marginal shelves, overhanging trees, you know, and
lots
fish.
of. I seem to remember I popped into your tent and there were lots of perch on screen. So lots of other fish.
Yep.
It wasn't just carp. What's Jimmy's fear then? Like, without giving too much away, why is Jimmy worried about?
Because the fish mugged him off for days. They did, but it was not his fault. So, you know, I'll be the first to say to someone, you need to, like, sometimes I sit there. Everyone who watches, anyone who watches our films will sit there at times going, oh, why is he doing that? Or he should do this. It's very easy to form an opinion. There wasn't a single time really in Jimmy's shoot where I sat there and thought, what is this? What is he doing? Like, this is his fault. Because sometimes you can do something and you can kind of think, well, you shouldn't have done that. That was a bad call. Or you sit there thinking, I wouldn't be doing what you're doing. Doesn't mean that I'm right, but you have that. You form an opinion very quickly when you're watching someone fish in front of an underwater camera.
Easy to do, isn't it?
Whether you're a viewer, whether you're the angler, or just sat next to the angler, it's all there in front of you. But we went round the houses with Jimmy, just trying to hook one. But the fish were as cute and as on edge as I've ever seen. And in fact, they were not as on edge, they were more cute, more on edge, so riggy, and to me looked so capable of getting away with it. Like, I saw things I didn't think I would see, and I saw them multiple times during that. It wasn't just once. Something didn't just happen once and you go, wow, it happened again and again. And then when it's like that, sometimes you watch stuff happen, you think you know what's happened, but you don't actually know because you're looking at a fish do something. You will never have the opportunity to say, hello, did you just do this because of that? And they go, yes, that's why. You go, brilliant, what I thought was right. You know, but when they do it 3 or 4 times, you're then able to go, they are definitely doing what I think they're doing because they did it the first time, they've done it again. Now we're going, I bet that fish is going to do this, and then it comes in and does it. They were getting away with it in terms of the rigs, like I'd not seen before. And it wasn't the fact they were chewing them, like they were spooking and bolting out of the swim on the very, very initial, like, millisecond of impact with a rig. And I've never seen that. Like, you'll see from the footage, but you were like, wow. They were spooking away from certain hook baits. They wouldn't even feed on the spot when they were there. Take them out, they feed. Put them back on, they won't feed. Like, there were things like that just make you go, wow. But yeah, like, it felt like he should have caught more. And you could argue that, with the amount of feeding we had on them spots, we should have caught more. But at the same time, the argument for me is they were very, very difficult carp to catch. And he said it from day one. He was like, it ain't going to be easier, mate. They're going to spit me up. But when it actually happens, obviously it starts to hurt a bit more. And I feel like he was wounded a bit, Jimmy, in the fact of just how hard they were to catch.
Sounds like it'll be an interesting watch.
Mate, I promise people, like, this one is a really interesting watch.
And it's stuck with you, clearly, hasn't it?
Mate, and I've never seen it again. And it very much stuck with me. It made me realise that things happen that I didn't think did. And when that happens, it doesn't have to be I've said this so many times, but underwater filming for me is not about learning which rig is the best, because I am very much a subscriber to the fact that just is never going to be the case. There'll never be one rig that doesn't get done. There'll never be one hook baits that's the best. But oh, sometimes you just see little things happen, and you go, okay, that can happen, and I didn't just that does happen from time to time, and I didn't think it ever happened. Just that makes you go, okay, because those are big, important. As much as they seem like small pieces of information, sometimes they're actually way bigger than you realise when you start to consider the bigger picture. And when there's always something, obviously it's harder now to come across things that are that have as much impact as the first few times you see stuff, because at the early days everything's new. It's harder now to have those moments of, oh wow, those little moments that really make me go wow are harder to come across, but I still get them. And I had it with Scott Lloyd. We had it. He had his mind, and I'm an angler. I've fished a hell of a lot. I've spoken to a hell of a lot. Scott is an angler that's fished a hell of a lot. A very observant angler that's watched fishing. And still, in a few days, we still have collectively had a moment there where it was like, we've never seen that. And it blew both of our minds. So that, as long as that's still happening for me in the underwaters, then I still think we've got there's still so much more to do with it. It's when that doesn't happen anymore, and all of a sudden everything becomes a bit same old, same old.
Because you've been with some quite, let's put it, old school anglers this weekend.
Yeah.
The pull forward, sort of him and his mates, Laney, people like that, a relatively old school bunch. And I think it's safe to say that some of them are a bit cynical about underwater filming. Have you had some interesting chats this weekend?
Yeah, there's anglers that don't like baiting poles, anglers that don't like bait boats, that don't like this. That I get that, and I'm a bit like that with certain things. But certain people that I talk to, it's hard. It's really hard when you talk about underwater to explain things as I see them. Like, I'm very much of the opinion now, and I may have addressed this before, but if you put a kilo of bait out onto a spot and you put a hook bait on the spot, does it matter that your hook bait gets taken first or last, as long as within a relatively sensible amount of time it does get taken? Does it matter? Like, what is your aim? Some people are there to catch, they want to catch the biggest carp. So if the rig gets spat out 10 times by a small carp, doesn't get picked up quickly, gets ignored, and then gets picked up last by a big carp, well, everything happens for a reason. Every carp you catch early might affect the one you would have caught late. And I'm of that opinion. There's certain things that that must be right. Like, I don't even really think I subscribe to the whole rigs must reset theory anymore. I'm not so sure on it. Like,
that's a big statement.
Yeah, but why does it? As long as it doesn't tangle to the point where it's not fishing, why does it need to be straight? Because that's what resetting is, kind of.
Yeah, laid out perfectly.
I think that's what most people see as resetting. Maybe not every person. If a rig ends up in a position where it isn't fishing, but what rigs do? What rig really would do that? How would you? Let's take a piece of a knotless knot bit of braid, a hook and a boilie. What can you do to that once it's on the lake bed that makes that not able to catch the carp that picks it up next? Because I don't really know how you would. You can roll it round and hook the... Yeah, that can happen. But at the same time, that rig generally will just always be fishing. If it's picked up by a bird and dropped back down, if it's spat out by a carp, it's not going to end up tied in a knot or scrambled, is it? To the point where the next time the bait gets picked up, it can't hook a fish.
You say that, but I've watched you on underwater shoots where a cast goes in and you're like, it's not lying properly.
No, of course. Because that's all there. That's what I'm saying. I'm now starting to think, like, does it really, the rig I use when I go to France, right, is I use 12 inches-ish, 10, 12 inches of uncoated braid with a spinner swivel on it and a hook and a boilie. That's it. And the reason I use that is I can drop that on silt, gravel, weed, mud, clay, whatever, with a 10-ounce lead off my boat, and it's always going to be fishing. Those lakes are full of nuisance fish. The rigs get battered around all the time, but I don't ever sit there and think, like, that's the opposite of what people would really deem as a modern day resetting effective rig.
I'm surprised. Yeah,
and that's like
uncoated braid.
Every carp, just braid. I use armor cord, I think it's called. It's a leader material.
Yeah. So a bit more stiff than, say, the old,
it's got
silk,
a bit,
the old Merlin or Supernova of years gone by.
It's not that silky feel.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit of rigidity in it.
Yeah.
But I don't ever have the fear that if that gets spat out, it's not going to be fishing. And I've always caught carp on it. Like, I don't know, I'm not saying that braided hook links are the best. I don't think they're good for casting and tangles. That's what they're not good for. But the resetting thing. Rigs that reset, I sort of think now, what rigs don't reset? What rigs don't? Like, because resetting means, what does it actually mean?
Yeah.
A braided hook link isn't going to land straight anyway. So it's just going to land pretty much in a pile. Every time it gets spat out, it technically is resetting. It's still fishing.
I guess solid bags get completely disrupted in their presentation.
Yep. But do you get what I'm saying though? It's like a resetting rig is like, yes, it lands exactly the same position as it maybe did at the start. But I don't know if it was even ever gets unset.
Yeah.
It just is that way because it's made like. But I don't think it matters if your rig is backwards on your line and stuff all the time. Like, I've seen so many perfectly positioned rigs get spat out. They end up in a weirder position, and then that's what hooks them.
Yeah.
Like I say, it's those things that I think it's things like hitting the lead and that. They're the things for me that I think an unset rig or a rig that didn't reset to how you'd wanted it to be perfectly displayed, when they hit the lead, that will still hook them. And I only think these things through. I've watched it so many times. I've watched things that other people don't see. That I just start to think, how important are certain things we think? Because most of what we think is based on assumption and what we catch. And this is my point, like I said earlier. If you put your bait out and you catch one within an hour, you're going to be really happy. If you catch one within 2 hours, you're going to be really happy still, aren't you? What I've seen from underwater is most of the time I film with someone, their bait gets 90% or more cleaned out before they get a bite. When they watch that happen and then they catch one after 2 hours, they're not that happy.
Yeah.
They're pretty gutted because that's not what they thought was going to happen. Take the cameras away, catching one quickly or within. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
But are you getting some pushback? As I say, you've been with some anglers from an older generation, and are they saying to you that they don't want? I
think they kind of think I'm always trying to go. You need to use. They don't. It's what I'm saying. It's like I'm telling you what I've seen and what I know to be the case. It's not. I don't so much have an opinion on what is good or bad. Like I say, is it bad? Do you need to catch one within? Do you need to catch a carp as quick as possible every single time it visits the spot? For example, you put the bright hook bait out there so that every single fish, when it comes onto the spot, hopefully picks that up. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because you don't know when the one you want to catch is going to turn up. So it's hard to know what is good or bad, what is right or wrong. And these anglers they sort of hear me, older guys will hear me, they're like, does that matter? Is that what? They don't want to. I think some people don't want to. Maybe don't want to know, or maybe don't want to listen, or don't want to know that. When I sort of say to someone, "You're almost certainly getting cleared out." Like when you put your rods out, when you hook one, I would put my money on it. A lot of the time, most of your bait's gone. Do you think that's the case? Because most people don't.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss.
And then it's like, well, does it? Like, so you get people's back up a little bit. I'm not trying to say that's good or bad. As long as you catch a carp, catching the carp is what matters. Whether it's an hour sooner or later, or 2 or 3. If I catch one carp in 24 hours, I'm going to be pretty happy, as are most. But when you sit there, like I say, with Jimmy,
and
when you're seeing what happens, and there's parts of me, like in Jimmy's film, because you start to make the changes, if he'd have just left things, he might have caught more.
Yes.
Yeah? So, like...
Sometimes there's too much information, isn't there?
And I think that's what you get when I talk to certain people. It's almost like, I'm not trying to push anything down their throat. I'm just trying to... Because I was a bit like them. I didn't think carp... I've never ever believed for a second that carp see our rigs and are scared of our rigs. But the more I watch, mate, the more I think they see our rigs and they're scared of our rigs. And I've never for a second believed that. I just thought, that's not true. The whole camoing them thing and all this, I've never been that way inclined. But now, having sat through hundreds and hundreds of hours of watching fish feed, the amount of times I've watched carp feed here, there, go towards the rig, they're having every single mouthful. Then the next one is going to be the hook bait, and that sometimes it's with a bottom bait, sometimes it's not, but they don't feed. And I've seen that. Again, if you see it once, you don't think so much of it. It's when you see it on every single lake, you think, actually, why did it not take that next mouthful? Because it was definitely supposed to, and then it just decided not to. Yeah. And it just so happened to be the one with the bit of braid attached to it. And I'm not saying they know it's a rig, but I think they're way more aware. They're way cute. They're just more aware. And this is everywhere. Like, now I think back of all the times I've seen that. And then, as I say, the more it happens, the less of a coincidence it can be. Because 9 times out of 10, when I watch a carp feed on free offerings, they feed. Their last mouthful, they will lift up off the bottom and swim off. What I never see them do is feed, nearly feed to within an inch of the floor on a free offering, decide not to eat it and swim off.
But they do that on hook
But what
baits.
I do see them with hook baits and rigs many times is feed. Inch from the bottom, just about to have their 5th one, decide not to. They don't bolt off. And when you see that, in the end, you have to go, that's not a coincidence. And it's always the rig, and they probably can in one way or another. And obviously some people have said this for years. Like, you talked like Fairbrass, he's done a lot of and he's always been convinced that they see, he's probably the opposite end of the scale to what my opinions are. But I think they know something is wrong. I'm not saying they know it's an angler's rig or they saw the hook or this, but I think they know that something is wrong way more than I used to think that.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see Jimmy's video. I'm looking forward to it. And next weekend, moving completely on, is the fishing show. It's Scott Lloyd's brainchild. He's hosting sort of a fish in and a fishing show, a big social at Linear. You're going down there. What's your view on these events? I think we both agree that Scott's putting his neck on the line for this.
Yeah.
It seems to have gone down well. Lots of tickets sold. I met Scott fairly recently to have a good old chat about these types of things. You're going down there. What's your view on it?
I think it'd be good. I think they're always good. I think when you can get, I listened to a podcast yesterday, and I thought, I listened to a podcast today. Simon Sinek, do you know who that is?
I don't.
Go search him on YouTube. He's brilliant. And he just said, like, so talking about AI. I've got really into AI lately, like as in just learning about what AI can be, is already, and what could be, and it's really fucking scary, mate.
I bet.
Like, I went down a bit of a pigeonhole with rabbit hole, pigeonhole. I went down a rabbit hole with it, right? And I got to a point where I was like, wow. And I felt really like, I'd learned so much stuff that I almost didn't want to know so quickly, but stuff that you almost have to know. So anyone listening to this, start listening to stuff about AI. I know what it can do. I know what ChatGPT is, and I know that you can do this. But if you listen to I listen to the Diary of a CEO podcast quite a lot. He's done some really good podcasts with people that very much at the centre of AI. It's scary, but they're talking about how human connection is just going to be, where you don't get emails anymore from someone that they've written them themselves, or they don't, or like he's made an example of, you break up with your girlfriend and then you tell ChatGPT what happened and ask for the perfect way to describe to her what you did wrong, and in a way you're doing it the best way that you know you can, and ChatGPT is giving you the perfect way to deliver your.
But it's not very human.
But it's not come from you, and it's and you're getting, and that's going to happen more and more. I go through Instagram now. I see stuff and I'm like, is that AI? Yeah, it was this. You have to check now. That was never. I didn't used to look at things and think, is that real or not? Now I do it all the time. I have to look at it and go, is that real? You know,
And that's happened in the last year or so.
it's happening a lot yet now.
Image generation was terrible a year ago on AI.
Now
video, it's pretty good. Yeah,
I could get a video of you and have you saying anything I want. I would script it. It'll take your face, your voice, replicate it, make you say things. You see it with footballers. You must have seen the football ones.
Yeah, absolutely. Wayne Rooney ones and things like
they
that.
Just have, and to most people, they're not going to know that that's fake.
Someone who doesn't like you on Burfield might do that.
Exactly.
To you.
It can happen. And then there'll be people that go, oh my God, I can't believe he said that, or I can't believe. So they were talking about like the human, how the connection between humans is already being lost by the use of social media. We're down that road already. AI is going to potentially just make it so much worse, to the point where people are constantly questioning what's real and what isn't. Whether that's something they're reading, watching, hearing, that's going to happen. And they're going to crave genuine, connected, like a genuine thing. And things like, and it made me think, like coincidentally, like I say, these are sort of events are not the sort of things I would normally do or attend. Having just attended one, having planned to go to another one next week, I'm listening to it thinking, what a great point. There is no better way of having fun with someone or connecting with people than an event like that, where you go and meet people, you spend time with people. Like we all love spending time with our friends, don't we? But these events, like the pull forward one, what Scott's doing at Linear, sometimes I've done them over the years. It's a bit like a carp show. If there's always a part of me that thinks, dreading the weekend, because you're just going to, it's so intense, it's a long way, but then you go and you think, that's great, loved speaking to all those people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think events like what Scott's doing, they're only ever going to be good. And getting everyone together, having a laugh at a fishing lake, like sort of what is there not to like, really? But yeah, obviously say the more I don't want to sound like some crazy conspiracy theorist, because I'm not at all. But you listen to some of the things I've been listening to, like just trying to educate myself and understand where things might be going. Like they talk about all the jobs that are going to go in that, when AI really, and this is within the next year.
And we're sitting here in a creative industry. It's a little bit of a worry, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like they're like, accountants are going to be gone within 2 years. They're like, there's no reason why they shouldn't be gone, because they're just using it's numbers and spreadsheets. You put that into AI, and that's going to do a day's work in 3 seconds. But they're not joke. It's not a joke now. That's the thing. That's what has dawned on me. I'm thinking, because I actually use AI. We're using it. You've probably used it in its various forms. Like,
I bet you've cleaned up audio on Adobe Podcast AI and stuff like that. Yeah,
we use it a lot. For simple stuff. And this is only the beginning. And it's like, so yeah. Things like Scott's, I won't go off on a tangent, but I think everyone should be, I genuinely think it's something that everyone needs to they need to do their bit of reading on, or just maybe play ignorance towards it and don't look. But when you've got kids and that, I've got kids and I'm thinking, fucking hell, like it's weird, mate.
So joining those two things, having kids and in-person physical fishing events, does that lead us to something that you might be doing?
Yeah, so I was at, over the years, I've mentioned this between friends really, like when I was a kid, I did the the BYCAC or whatever it's called. I did that, Dovey did it, Jake Wild, lots of people that now work in the industry did that. I don't know why I did it. I don't know how I even ended up there. I don't know what wasn't necessarily something that I knew loads of people that did, but there was something about that I wanted to do. They also used to do the junior fish-ins, and over the last couple of years, I've thought a few times, doesn't seem as like, we talk to each other, now we're older, and we often go, don't really seem like, you don't get that happening to the same level as it used to, or who are the next generation of, like, because my generation, and that makes me sound old, but from my generation, or what I would class as that, there's quite a lot of people that are very much involved in the industry. or at least in fishing. They're all still fishing, or a lot of them work in it or have done, and I don't feel like that's really happened since. I don't know why.
That there isn't an event for juniors, that sort of thing,
And just that follow, like that sort of, there were us lads back then who were stood on that little podium trying to win the BCAC or whatever. We are now influential figures in this sport in various ways, and we've stayed within it, and there must be a reason why that happened, and it hasn't really happened with the generation since, because it's never stopped as such, those events. So something must have happened, but I feel like it maybe gets taken for granted, or not. It's not looked at in the same way anymore. But either way, I thought it'd be nice to do something like that. And I've mentioned it to people in the past, never done it. But I was speaking to the bailiffs at Linear, and we was like, why don't we just do it? Because he said, no, it never really happens anymore. It doesn't seem as thingy anymore. And I looked around the lake and I just thought, well, we should just try and do it. Because how hard is it to get X amount of carp anglers together for one weekend of the year? And have some kids come down and fish with you, and do that kind of junior fishing BYCAC style event. So Cypography we've got the infrastructure to make that happen. I've got the connections. I know all the anglers. It's not remotely not doable.
Do you remember your days on the BYCAC?
I think I only done it once, but yeah, I do. Yeah, I came second, did it once. It's like vivid memory as a kid. Personally, I don't feel like that had anything to do with my love for fishing, and that I've never lost. I just did it one year. Don't really know why I did. That's what I say. I don't know why I did that event.
But it's amazing when you look at the old photos, how many of those people you go, oh, well, they're still in the trade. They're still in the trade.
It's very much those selection of photos that it's not really because those events have carried on. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe was there more effort going into it around then, and therefore that bred something into those people that lasted longer within them. I don't know. I'm not going to put the event down now because I don't know much about it, but I do know it's not as big a deal as it was. I know that for a fact. I don't know why, but it isn't. Right?
So would your ideal event be a pure match? Would it be a fishing? Would it be a hybrid of the two?
I think what I was thinking is just first of all get the anglers there, and if you can get the anglers there, then because it's fun to have a match, it's good to be competitive in life. Don't think there's anything wrong with a bit of competition, and maybe do like a cross between the two. Yeah, like I know loads of lads that loved both. I know loads of people that did both of those events. They're both just as good, and it'd be nice to do something a little bit different, maybe to what's done before. I always feel like Cypography is kind of behind closed doors, really. Other than this podcast and the stuff that you see of us on social media, like the bread and butter of what we do is kind of always it's behind our subscription paywall or whatever. I don't feel like we're as out in the open and as involved with everyone as in like fishing as a whole. If we put all of our content on YouTube, the entirety of carp fishing would in some way be part of what we do. We don't do that. Therefore, I always feel like we're kind of a bit, it's like a closed group, a smaller, and I like the idea of doing things broader, some broader things, and an event like that, I just like I say, being at one at the weekend, going to one next weekend, I thought, why not? And it's for the kids. I'm not saying adult. I probably wouldn't consider it at all if it was for fully grown men. But to do it for young fishermen, I think it's cool. And I think the anglers that I would ask to do it would be way more willing to do it as well because it's for the kids. You can't look after those group of anglers and it might only take something like that because if you I was lucky when I was young. I met Derek Ritchie, and I met anglers that worked in fishing, and they made their money. They made their hobby the same thing that made them their money to survive. Now, seeing people do that is inspiring. Knowing someone does it, never meeting them, it's not the same as actually sitting with them and sort of seeing it be real in front of you, and those events, maybe that sort of thing is what just triggers something in people to pursue things in a certain way, because you see that it's a reality, not a dream or a...
I also think fishing's quite... You can look at all the YouTube tutorials you like about how to tie the perfect knot, but if someone shows you, if a bailiff shows you, from your younger years, or if you see it in hand and you can touch things, it makes it a lot easier. And there's a lot to learn. I've just taken my girlfriend fishing for the first time this week, and I was teaching her to cast, and she said, "Oh, I didn't realise how dexterous you have to be." And we take it all for granted, and you can't get that across until you do it in person. I think there's a massive something to be said for that, isn't it? Doing it in person, bringing people together.
Yeah, it is. Fishing is always going to be something that you have to go and do. Like, I hope anyway. Yeah. It's never going to be FIFA where you can play it on your, on your Xbox. Fishing is always going to be something where you have to go and do it. You have to endure the weather. You have to go out there and go fishing, don't you? And yeah, like I say, I'd like to do an event like that for young lads. I had them sort of things at my disposal when I was younger, because someone took the time and effort to make them possible. And now I am in a position where I can make that sort of thing possible for a lad or a young girl who is in the position I once was. So you think, why not?
Absolutely.
It might be shit, everyone might hate it, we might only do it once, but it might be really good, they might love it, and it might be the start of something really cool that carries on. Like, I don't know. But for the sake of for one weekend in the next year or so, I think it's worth a punt. Because it would be nice. I reckon there's people that organise that event that look at some of the people that are like the likes of me, Tom Maker, Jake Wildboar, Tom Duck, the lads who did that event. I bet there's a part of them that look at us and they love the fact that all those years ago, when they first met us as kids, like Simon Crowe, who was a massive character in that, I bet you somewhere there's an element of him that looks at them and he takes a bit of, that makes him happy or proud in one way or another.
Yeah.
It must do.
Yeah, I remember Brian Scoyles was always doing the carp fishing. He all did the junior stuff. And I've spoken to Brian relatively recently. They did that fishing thing that they're at Horseshoe for the carp site. And I think, I bet it is really fulfilling and
I think so.
Heartwarming to do. So, well, hopefully that comes to fruition. Shall we grab your phone and get some questions from people that you've asked on Instagram?
Yes, let's have a look. Right, okay. Match the hatch or bright hook baits in the summer and autumn months.
Are we talking post-spawning, I guess? Is that the distinction?
So, I think there's always an argument to be made for having a bright hook bait on. The argument simply being it's easy for them to see. The easier it is for them to see it, the greater the chances are of them having to make a decision based on that hook bait, i.e., do I eat it, do I not? I think most of the time they're going to choose it's going to get you more bites. But I have since learned that sometimes they will completely ignore it and eat pretty much everything else. But they still get picked up in the end. So it's hard. I use them a lot. Do you use them a great deal?
Yeah, I think I do use more bright hook baits. I mean, I'd associate you with a bright pink.
Pretty much all the time,
pop up. And what's your view on goo these days? Is it still in your armoury?
Yeah, I use it. I use it all the time. I use the same. Obviously, I managed to. I'm not going to speak as if I know the answers, but obviously the goo I use is the very original Squid Supreme goo, which I have got lots of in my garage. When that runs out, I don't know what I'll do, because I don't know. It's something's going to change at that moment. But I've tried to get to the point where as long as the shelf life on it's okay, I've got a good 20 years left in me yet. I normally use about a pot a year. I've got 20 pots. So yeah, it's worth a fortune, that stuff now. I've seen it sell for like 100 quid a bottle on that.
I bet it is. Yeah.
So, but I think bright hook in the autumn. I think make your decisions. Put one of each. That's the one thing I often think now. If you've got one of each on the spot, and I think a lot of the time with 3 rods we can get away with having 2 on a spot. I think that's not a bad way to go. One that matches and one that's bright. Can you sponsor me? I think he's asking you to sponsor him. I feel they know the camera is there. Oh, sorry. So the first question was from Aidan Carp Angler. This is from Instagram. Martin Shenton. I feel they know the camera is there and behave differently. Do you think underwater filming is a true reflection of what actually happens?
I think that's interesting. From me as an outsider, you're the one who puts the cameras there. Does the camera emit a frequency? Does it have light, sound? Does it vibrate? You know, what do you think?
I think it doesn't really emit anything, no. But do I think it's a true reflection of? Absolutely not. You know, it absolutely is not a true reflection of what happens on a normal fishing trip. Like there is no, you know, there's nothing more you can say on that question other than that. But it is as close to that as you're ever going to see. Because really, you know, in terms of viewing something, it's the only way of doing it. But the camera's in the water. Normally the camera's not there. We will never know whether everything we see happen is because that camera is there and something different may have happened otherwise. But I'm also not of the opinion that they are particularly worried about the camera. So I don't believe that us putting the camera in makes a big difference, but it has to make some kind of a difference. Whether that's just how the anglers react and what they do throughout a session. That's probably the biggest thing I think that actually
it's not the fish necessarily reacting.
No, I think the biggest effect that camera has is on the angler. I think it affects the angler way more than it affects the fish. I don't think the angler necessarily realises that at the time. But yeah, I think if it affects anyone, it's man with the rod, not the fish with the fins, that it's making do things that they wouldn't normally do, making them act differently, decisions made that they wouldn't normally make.
I always think when I watch your stuff, and I'm sure, you know, I'm an outsider to this, I don't go on the shoots, I watch it when I see the finished video. I always think to myself, when I think, oh my God, how do we ever catch them? What comforts me is that the parameters for filming are you need a very clear spot and clear water. And actually almost all anglers will generally fish a spot that can colour up. And you can't, I know you've filmed in silt.
We've done bits, but yeah.
But actually, we're catching more carp on a day-to-day basis without cameras in muddier or cloudier areas, aren't we? And what you're filming in is like crystal clear often, isn't it? And that's what comforts me, is that actually I'm probably fishing in an area where silt's kicking up, where weed would be floating in front of the lens. That's what I draw comfort from.
And there is that is very much the case. You know, like we're probably fishing for them in a way. Even the disturbance, mate. The presence of the camera, just the general.
Yeah, because you set them by boat, don't you? On some waters where they've never seen a boat.
Exactly. What goes into it that people don't see. You know, there's a lot happening, and also there's a lot not happening in terms of what you would normally do as an angler. So it gives you a window into a world you don't get, which in turn might make you make decisions you wouldn't normally make, which might make your trip better, but might actually have made your trip worse. If you'd have just let it play out, you might have caught more than if you disturbed the swim by recast that. So no, it's never going to be a true reflection of a real fishing situation. But neither is normal like filming with a guy with a camera following you around. Normal filming, anything that isn't just you versus the carp on your own, in one way or another, starts to bring you more away from. You know, it's like if you'd fish with people when you're shooting a magazine article or whatever. All of a sudden there's a pressure that time is running out and you need to catch a carp in order to make neither of your two's time a waste of time.
Yeah.
And then they move on the last night, and then they might have just gone, hang it out here, it should happen in the morning, but they move because they need to make it happen. So anything I think you add into your fishing outside of just you going fishing and having a clear head, clear mind, the lake to look at, anything that you throw into the mix in one way or another starts to take you away.
But fundamentally, just to recap, you don't think they're scared of the camera's presence?
I don't believe so, no.
Yeah.
No, they amount of times we move a camera to where the carp are and they just smash bait in front of it, eat all around the lens, and they know it's there, but I don't believe our camera, I'm not speaking for every single underwater camera system there is or has been, some of them are bigger, smaller, and I think some might emit something, you never know. I think there's a chance, isn't there? But I've never seen any really strange activity. I've never seen carp all of a sudden spook or not be willing to come close to camera. I just think that's their home. You're putting something in it. Carp are pressured, aware of anglers, aware of angling presence anyway. You chuck something like that into the mix as well, and they have to be a little bit more on edge than they might normally, but I don't think they're scared of it. If they were scared of it, I think we'd really, really struggle to make the films that we make. What percentage of anglers would rather fish water where all technology is banned? I don't know. I would, if I had to guess, I would say 60% of people would rather fish where all technology is banned.
It's difficult. I guess both of us encounter a certain subset of anglers more than we encounter others. Do you know what I mean? When you went to Linear at the weekend, that isn't your normal domain.
But there's no bait boats there. There's no drones. There's no bait boats.
No.
There's no. So I reckon the technology there is like probably not that used that much.
That's a good point.
I feel like a lot of the tech is probably in in syndicates where people have got more money to spend on tech. I don't think the average guy is spending the money on the tech. Like, it ain't cheap, is it?
No.
The best bait boat's gonna. If you wanted to buy the best drone, so let's say if you wanted to buy all the best tech, I bet you're looking at 10 grand.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I'd go no tech. Personally, I would much rather fish a lake where you just have fishing rods.
I would too, but I'm not sure. It's hard. We've all got blinkers on, no matter what type of angler we are. Very few anglers inhabit every single world, do they? Do you know what I mean? So it's a hard question.
Okay, so how about this then for the question? So, do more anglers use technology in their fishing now than don't? That I'd like to know. How many people, in some way, technology has to be deeper, drone, bait boat, those three. What else is there? That's about it, isn't there?
Yeah.
Really?
But there's blurred lines. Google Earth is seen as this amazing thing for us. And it's not a live top-down view, but it gives you a view of like where gravel bars might be.
It doesn't aid your actual fishing, though.
It doesn't in real time. No.
It'd be interesting to know how many people just go fishing with just rods and don't have one of those three items.
And how you see, but there are some waters where bait boats are absolutely dominated, don't they? And you see them still. I don't encounter. Maybe it's the waters I fish. I don't encounter that much tech. I don't see many deepers out on the bank. I don't seem to think. Do you remember Fish Spy, the marker floats with a camera in? I don't think they still make those. I mean, there's tech that's come and gone, or tech that's been used by a few people and found to be maybe not that useful. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how, go to the tackle box, go to Johnson Ross, how many deepers are they selling? I'd be drones are genuinely useful, but you've got to have a mindset that says, I want to use a drone, I'm perfectly happy with it. Or personally, I have a drone. I have a drone license for my work, but I'd shudder to use that when I went fishing. I'd feel. But we're going down that route of the technology debate again. But I think there's more and more drones are cheaper now and more accessible. Those sub 250 gram drones, so people can use them. It'd be interesting to know. Ask a major tackle retailer what their bar chart of tech sales has been. Have we reached a peak?
It has to be going up. It can't be going backwards. But it has to. We've got to still be in a position where most people don't use it. I think it's got to be there still.
I think so.
It's still, and quite heavily that way as well.
Yeah. If I was a gambling man, that's where I'd put my money. But it's interesting, and certain waters would be different, wouldn't they? Who was that from? Should we credit them?
That's from Gary Atkin. Sorry. Yeah, it's from Gary Atkin. With more new anglers coming to the sport by the day, what do you predict for the future of carp fishing? So that I find interesting. That's Shane Bridges, by the way, who's asked that. I have the opinion fishing is growing. Other statistics tell you it's not, don't they?
I was going to say it's a bold statement to say there's more anglers coming day by day. There was some stuff Angling Times reported at the EA reported this spring, and the fact that Easter had come at a certain time, I think, there'd been a surge in rod license sales this spring just gone. And I think it was attributed to good weather in the spring and the fact that Easter came later, I think, or something like that, that there were certain factors that were attributed to it, which is good to see, because I think we've seen rod licenses, COVID was a peak, and we've seen rod licenses sort of come over that peak and come down the hill. And now it seems there's been a little spike this year, this spring. Good weather helps, doesn't it? But
I feel like there's just so many more fishermen now. Take everything out. Just take everything you know about rod licenses, or just think of the lakes. And does it not just feel like to you that there's just more fishermen?
There's more midweek anglers, isn't there? Definitely,
Yeah,
I think.
I feel like fishing's just, to me, it feels bigger. Like, it feels bigger in every sense. Bigger in social media, bigger, just as a whole.
The spend, I don't know what the phrase would be, like the spend per capita. I'd imagine each angler now has more thousands of pounds worth of kit compared to 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Do.
When I see the cool boxes, the Jackery power packs, the bivvies, even adjusted for inflation, I think individual carp anglers are spending more money than they ever have done.
And I think there's more of them. But like, rod license is maybe. Thing is though, I only know about fish. I don't know about fishing in general. I know about carp. To me, carp fishing is a growing sport. That's how I feel. But I don't know if you feel that way because everything is so visible on social media. Everything is so easy to, like 1,000 carp anglers. If you looked at 1,000 carp anglers on social media, there's a lot of people to look at, isn't it? I think where everything is so visible. If you took social media away, those 1,000 carp anglers, you might never see them in your entire life. They're just there, out there doing it. But I always feel like there's carp anglers everywhere. Like, I go on holiday and I bump into carp anglers. Everywhere I go, I bump into carp anglers. And I think, can't be that way. Or is it just because of your phones, because of the way everything is so much more visible to the wider world, that it feels like there's more people, but maybe we're just more connected with each other than we realise. Maybe it's that. I don't know.
I guess the only metric we've got is rod license sales, and that doesn't show the whole picture. I know some people will evade their rod license and things like that. But on the flip side, tackle shops are really struggling, aren't they? Independent tackle shops. Where I live in Oxfordshire, Oxford itself doesn't have a tackle shop anymore. The one in Kidlington, the nearest sort of village, that's closing in October. There's
hard to know. It's hard to, because like you say, a lot of little shops disappear, but a lot of big shops get bigger. Yeah. It's hard. I don't know whether the bigger are getting bigger and it's wiping out the smaller. I don't know whether carp angling is really popular, but other sports has no one. Other sides of fishing, doesn't have anyone within it. Because the rod license sales, that's fishing as a whole, isn't it? But to be honest, I can't imagine there are many kids that go out.
Do you know what
doing other types of fishing? Like,
I did something silly and I bought a boat this winter and I went out for opening day on the Thames. I've always wanted to do that. I've had a boat previously, but this time a bit more serious. Didn't catch anything for carp, and I went downriver, and so I fished I fished midnight, June the 16th, which I've never done before, carp angling. And then I came back upriver to my mooring, so I could only fish that night, packed up about mid-morning on the 16th, and I came back upriver, and it was probably an 8 to 10 mile little trundle, and there were loads of anglers out, and I was fishing with, basic kit, that typical Y-shaped rod
general
rest.
fisherman.
Yeah, and it was really heartening to see, and it was a Monday, it wasn't a Saturday. Maybe the weather played a part, but I couldn't have seen that length of towpath any other way, unless I'd gone out on a bike and gone. I got a really good view of rural to the edge of Oxford City, how many anglers were out, and it was really heartening to see. And all sorts of levels. You could see the real specialist hunters with their quivers to some kids who clearly just scraped together some worms. That was quite heartening to see. But it's all anecdotal, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah, I think a lot of it we gauge on The rod license thing is what I think most people take their measure off of,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah, and if it's gone up this spring, and maybe we've had quite a dry, warm, that's what brings the casual anglers out, isn't it? It's good weather. So, yeah.
We'll see. But where do we see the future for carp fishing? I don't even know what.
We're in it, aren't we? Are we not?
Yeah,
we're sort of in the social. We're in that plateau, aren't we? Of that social media area is well established. There's an abundance of free information. The mags, there are still mags left, but
I think it's silly to assume things can't. I think you're always a bit silly to assume that things won't keep changing. But I do find it hard to look at without technology. Okay, so look, without technology being able to really impact what we do. So I think most fisheries will ban it. I think because of the style, because of what we do and what carp fishing and fishing in general is supposed to be. I think there's always going to be a real big kickback that won't quite allow technology to really take over fishing, because I'm sure in some crazy ways it could. But I don't see how. I feel like we can't go too much further with it. But I say you're stupid to think that. And 50 years ago, there'll be loads of industries or whatever where people said that. But
But we've had bait boats for 40 years.
Yeah, and sports stay a sport. Like, a sport is a sport because that's what it is. And if you change it too much, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's almost not that.
Yeah.
It's like you can't bring loads of different things into football, add another 2 goals and this and that, because it's not football all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's commercial fisheries, those curated behind gates sort of fisheries. Lodges, we're seeing lots of lodges with hot tubs type things.
Yeah.
But we've seen that for 10 years, haven't we?
Yeah. I think that's one thing I spoke about this the weekend. There's so much more of the booking. The traditional day tickets are going, aren't they?
Yeah, that tenner in a farmer's
rock up
field sort of thing.
Rock up and pay. That seems to be, that's a change, technology-based change.
Yeah.
I think is affecting, whether it's for the good or bad, I don't really know. It's not my style of fishing, but lots of places where I know that we used to be able to just rock up and fish are now booked. And when we're planning our shoots, that's quite hard, makes it quite hard sometimes. Oh, bloody hell. Can't really get anywhere till next year. Everyone's always booked till next year.
Yeah.
But I think the future of carp fishing will be fine. When we see an angler seeing how great nuts are on underwater, all that sort of stuff will feature at some point. Scott Lloyd, he used tiger nuts to good effect.
Could you hear them?
No, see, I've took the camera I had with a mic in, I've took it out.
Okay.
You can. Mark Bryant tells me you can hear them through the. You definitely can. Like. You hear
that
the
crunch. Yeah.
But you can hear him in his tank. He hears him in a tank do it.
Yeah.
So, close range or long distance angling, your preferred choice, not what the venue suits. That's from Ethan McLean. That's an easy one for me.
Go on.
Close.
It's easier.
No, just close is better, isn't it? Just nothing better than catching a carp from under your feet.
Yeah.
Watching it. Like, that's the best. Every day of the week.
Don't you like trying to hit a spot to the horizon? Or
Nah. Not as much as I like watching like fins and vortexes and waiting for them to swim out and then chucking a couple more pellets in and watching them drop. But that is, that's like the surface fishing thing is you never get bored of surface fishing because you can't get bored of it. You get bored staring at fish at 180 yards, looking at 3 bobbins is all you've got to look at all day, waiting for one of them to move, aren't you?
But there's an athletic element of the casting. I'm enjoying that. I'm no big caster whatsoever, but I'm enjoying improving my casting.
I would love to be a really good long range angler. Would love to be, but I would much rather be a good edge angler.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's the look, it's the seeing in, it's the. There's nothing better for me than finding fish, seeing fish in close, setting those. Everything's feels more refined. Everything's heightened because they're there, you're there. Like I don't know, just I love it. I've always loved edge fishing though, and I would always choose to do that over anything else if it suits.
Yeah.
Would I like to massively improve my long range fishing? Yes, but. Like, I'll tell you an example. 2 guys swim side by side. One is fishing 180 yards and he's getting bites. The guy next door's got fish feeding in the edge. The geezer who's fishing long range will stand next door with the other guy, peering over and watching those fish in the edge, won't he? He ain't going to be like, nah, that's right, mate, leave them. I won't look. Might get one in a minute. He's going to be like, what, really? What's down there? Oh,
Yeah.
wow, look at that. Yeah. Do you know?
Yeah.
I think there's, that's like, that sort of fishing for me is magic. But
Yeah, fair play.
who inspires you to start fishing, and who would you like to go fishing with, and why?
Did you have a dad that fished?
Yeah, my dad and my granddad, both flat out fishermen. I think
I didn't, you see.
No.
No, which is an unusual one, isn't it? That it was a friend's dad, and I lived in a village that had water running through it, a river, and then gravel pits next to it. So, so were you always taken by your dad and granddad?
Since I was like, really young. Really, like I haven't taken my children anywhere near as much as I should. I think I've addressed it before. Fishing takes over nearly every day of my week anyway. I end up just never wanting to do it, but I take them from time to time. Whereas my dad, he worked in London, worked in the city. He come home from that and wanted nothing more than to go fishing. Yeah. So we used to go all the time. Brother never liked it, but my dad and my granddad were out and out fishermen, had been the whole lives.
Do they still fish?
Yeah, well, my granddad's passed away, but he fished he fished up until he was sort of capable, and he would come to Norfolk with me and my dad every year, and then he got too old and he didn't do that anymore. My dad fishes less now. He does a lot of fly fishing, my dad.
Have you ever done that?
And he never did. The whole time, like, when I was a kid, he'd never done it. No, I've never done it. I should go with him. Yeah, he does a bit of fly fishing. All the fishing he does now is fly fishing, really. The only carp fishing my dad really used to do was floating crust.
Classic.
That's what he always called it, yeah. And I remember he used to anchor them up in the weed. We used to go to certain lakes, always have to be weedy, because he just sort of anchored the bits of bread up. And he'd fish almost like he was fishing single hook baits.
Yeah.
Didn't really feed. Very rarely did he feed. Just put the bread out there, anchor it up in the weed, and then just wait. It was quite weird.
Yeah.
I used to never have the patience, but yeah, my dad and his dad, both proper out and out anglers. Not so much carp, more fishermen, general fishermen, pipe fishing and things like that. But my brother, never. Like, despite the both of us getting that.
Yeah, that introduction.
Yeah, from a very young age as well. Not when you've already made your mind up what you like. This was from my brother. I can't even think I've done it if I've ever even really seen him with a rod, and we tried. Just shows some people have it in them.
It's in you, isn't it? Or it isn't. Yeah. What's the other part of that question? Is it who would you like to fish?
Who would you like to go fishing with?
I'd imagine you've been fishing with most people that...
I'm going to say no one. I would have liked to go fishing with. Probably my granddad, to be fair. Yeah. Who now can't, you know.
What were your external heroes growing up? Were you a John Wilson, a Matt Hayes, or anything like that?
Yeah, I used to watch all that. I used to watch I never watched Passion for Angling. I watched bits of it, but never got into that. I think that was it was sort of
it wasn't on TV when you were...
No, and it wasn't
slightly too young.
The style was very different. I quite liked I feel like John Wilson things a bit more up, but they're definitely different style, aren't they? Yeah, I used to watch all that. I used to watch most fishing on the telly. You know, I loved fishing when I was a kid. I loved fishing. I loved all sorts of fishing as well. So it wasn't, I would just like carp fishing like I do now, really. So I used to watch loads. Everything, really. Even old Rex. I didn't watch as much of Rex hunting. It was a bit wild, but I loved Matt Hayes, Mick Brown. Yeah. Loved the bit of things they used to do. John Wilson, his laugh. I can't remember, like, when I first realised. I remember realising once how much he laughed.
Once you do realise,
and then
you can't stop noticing it.
And then and it kind of ruined John Wilson for me. I think it was probably I'd watched the repeats for about the 5th time or so, and then I thought, wow, he does laugh a lot, doesn't he? There were such good TV shows, like I don't think I used to watch them with just thinking they were anything more than just on stuff on telly though. I feel like now people watch fishing stuff knowing that it's like a real big part of their hobby, and I feel like I just watched it. I was young when I watched that stuff. Yeah. I don't know how young I would have been, but young. And yeah, what was the channel? Was it on Discovery? It was on.
Yeah, I mean, Go Fishing. John Wilson was Channel 4, and then Matt Hayes. All the Matt Hayes stuff.
I wouldn't have watched John
Discovery.
Wilson Channel 4, would I?
I don't know. You're younger than me, and I lived in a village where there was regionalised TV, and at my end of the village you couldn't get it, and at the top end of the village my mates could get John Wilson. So
I'm saying I watched everything on would have been Sky on Discovery, I think, like that. But yeah, who would I like to go fishing with? No, my granddad. Yeah. I should go with my dad more as well.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. That last one was from Neil Oliver. This is the last one from Smithy Kev. What's your thoughts on treating fish? Koi keepers are saying not to treat existing injuries. I think the first thing to say on that one is, unless someone, this is something you have to be careful about, isn't it?
It's an interesting one, that.
I think until told otherwise, people are fine to carry on treating fish. I'd be interested to see what the koi keepers have to say, but I think it's, on the sound of it, it will come up. I heard this about a year ago. I won't say who it was, but it was a lake owner, and he just said, he was like, I'm sure he banned carp care kits because he was of the opinion that they don't need it, and we shouldn't be tampering with them. Let them heal themselves. Didn't really think much of it then. This is the first time I've heard much on it since. But I believe koi keepers, aren't they always kind of at the forefront of anything like that, aren't they?
But some of these treatments come from the koi world, don't they? I'm sure they do initially.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we get them, because they come from koi.
And now, is there a change of thought? Is that what's been... I mean, we have medicine as a human race, don't we? We treat our own ailments. We don't just let an ailment heal itself, do we?
No.
I agree with you. A bit of caution on that. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, I'd say give it a little while, and then it's...
Yeah, wait for some evidence or wait for some more discussion. But that's new to me today, so...
But they are the ones that I think most of our carp care kit, it all stems from them. But it's like anything. There's always someone, no matter what you do, there's always going to be someone that says, don't.
Yeah, there'll always be someone
bad.
Or deliberately being contrary just to get a profile
I think, what are your thoughts? Yeah, so I'm going to say, if a carp has got damage, based on what the world as I see it today, if a carp has got damage, and if you've got a carp care kit with you, treat it.
I think that's sensible.
That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And then if anything changes to the point where I would think that it's more likely, it's not necessarily don't treat them. It might be more we don't necessarily need to treat them. I'd be surprised if it was all of a sudden a situation where treating them was a bad thing. Yeah. So, but interesting. Maybe we'll do some digging on that, and then next time around we can talk with a little bit more knowledge on the matter. But yeah, that's good. That's
good stuff. Thanks to everyone who asked us a question.